welcome to my psychology lab. Today we're going to be starting our series on the different attachment styles. So for today, our first episode is going to cover what attachment styles are, how your attachment styles develop, and how you can figure out which attachment style you are, and some other fun facts. So to start off this video, I'm going to be explaining what attachment styles are. So attachment styles are the way that you form and behave in relationships with other people. So whether that be romantic relationships or platonic relationships with family or friends, it's the way that you interact with these people in relationships. There are 4 different attachment styles. There's secure attachment style, disorganized attachment style, anxious attachment style, and avoidant attachment style. So, where did attachment styles come from? Well, attachment styles are based on the attachment theory. The attachment theory was developed in the late 1960s to the early 1970s by psychiatrist John Bowlby. The main focus of attachment theory is the importance of the relationship between the primary caregiver and the infant, and how that affects their future relationships and their development. Another main focus of the attachment theory is that it is essential to have a present and available caregiver to ensure the development of secure attachment in a child. So now I'm going to be explaining how attachment styles develop. So attachment styles can be impacted by a few different things, but the main source of your attachment style is going to be the relationship between you and your primary caregiver in your childhood. So if that's a positive relationship, you might end up with a secure attachment style, but a negative relationship might lead to a not secure attachment style. So some other things that can affect it in your childhood would be relationships with other people like teachers, friends, family members, and also things like neglect, abuse, multiple homes, or trauma. Those things can also affect you in your childhood. And your attachment styles can also change in the future. So whether that be from a traumatic situation or a romantic relationship or maybe cheating, those things can impact your attachment style as well in the future. So it's not only impacted by your childhood, but the main impact is going to be in your childhood, especially your relationships with other people. So now I'm going to be talking about one of the most well-known experiments on attachment theory. So this experiment is called the Strange Situation Experiment, and it was developed by a psychologist named Mary Ainsworth in the 1970s. So in the Strange Situation Experiment, they would take mothers and their infants and put them in a room together. In this room, there was toys and things for the infants to play with, and they would just hang out in the room for a little bit and get familiar with their surroundings and just let them explore. So after a little while, the caregiver would leave the room and a stranger would enter the room and interact with the child as well. So after that happened, they would get the caregiver to come back in and interact with both the stranger and the child. And then they would get the caregiver to leave again and get the stranger to leave as well, and then see the reaction to the caregiver coming back into the room when the child was alone. They repeated this process a few times, and they really wanted to observe the reaction of the children when the caregiver left the room and when the stranger entered the room. So the children with a more calm reaction were likely to have a secure attachment in the future, and the children who were more upset and cried when their parents left seemed to be having more of an anxious attachment style to their parent. And the children who didn't really seem to care or notice that their caregiver left the room seemed to have more of a disorganized or avoidant attachment style. So this was super popular because it was one of the first experiments on attachment style. So how can you find out your own attachment style? Well, there are a few different ways that you can find out your attachment style. One that I would personally recommend is to just go do some research, read some articles, maybe watch some YouTube videos on attachment styles, and just see what you relate to the most. You know yourself best, and you should be able to tell what relates to you the most. But if you don't think that's a good option for you and you want something a little bit faster and a little bit easier, there are some really great quizzes online. One that I would personally recommend is the Attachment Project quiz. If you look up the Attachment Project and go to their website, they have a free 5-minute quiz. It's very fast, very easy, and it gives you a lot of details in the answers. There's some quizzes that aren't as detailed and don't really give you as much information on the different attachment styles, But personally, I really like this because it separates your answers into 4 different categories. One of those being maternal, paternal, and in relationships, romantic relationships. And then there's also just your overall attachment style. So it kind of tells you what your attachment style is in all those different areas and like how they can affect your life. So it's a really great resource and it's free. So if you're looking for a quiz, I would definitely recommend the Attachment Project. And also, if you really want to talk to someone about your attachment style, you could talk to a professional. That would obviously be one of the most ideal ways to find out your attachment style, just because they have a lot more knowledge than an online quiz. But I know that's not the best option for a lot of people. So if you need a quick and easy option, quiz is an option. Also, just watching some YouTube videos and doing your own research is a really great option for people. So, why is it important to learn your attachment styles? Well, learning your attachment style is super important because it affects so many aspects of your life. Your romantic relationships, relationships with friends and family, and relationships with bosses and coworkers. So, learning your attachment style and learning how to manage it is super important. Once you learn your attachment style, you can look at the past patterns in relationships and see what you need to improve on. You can increase your emotional regulation, and that helps build more meaningful connections with other people. It's also super important just so you can have more insight on yourself and your past relationships and your future relationships. So learning your attachment style is super important and super beneficial. So that is the end of our episode on attachment styles and what they are. So if you want to learn more about the individual attachment styles and see what kind of attachment style you have, stay tuned for the next episodes of the series. Thanks for watching. Bye.